você consegue captar as vibrações. Vem até nós. Só não vem à noite.
Mano, e pior que mexe esquisito demais.
Ele parece, sabe aquele lance de índio?
Essas plásticas é grande.
Aquele movimento de índio, um arco e flecha, é o movimento dele. Mas é interessante.
Com o zoom aqui dá pra ver ele se mexendo melhor.
O zoom dele é melhor que o meu. E outra coisa, se você for fazer uma comparação, ele é mais ou menos do tamanho daquela árvore lá. Entendeu? Ele é grande.
E outra coisa, até o jeito dele se movimentar não tá normal. Não, pode ser um ser humano gigante, mas ele tá com um comportamento diferente.
So now, apparently, we have 10-foot tall shadow creatures now captured on camera in Brazil. Ilha do Mel is an island off the coast of Brazil where locals claim they saw at least 2 tall and mysterious figures standing on a hilltop. Now, it's hard to gauge just how far away these clips were shot from, but they are stating whatever is out there sure looks big. The articles are stating that these so-called aliens here in the video seem to be surveying the land from up on the hill, moving around, gesturing, and seemingly walking through the landscape. Now, this video footage taken in Brazil is some of the most clear footage that we have to date of these 10-foot tall shadow aliens. And this is coming directly after 10-foot tall alien creatures were seen in the Miami Mall. The woman who took this video footage says it's pretty crazy, that it's pretty much impossible for humans to reach this part of the hill where the creatures are. And she says the beings are way bigger than people. At one point, you start to see them move, walking around. This article continues to state the sighting comes only days after an incident in Miami, where there is claimed video shows a tall gray creature walking through an outdoor mall in the middle of a massive police response. There is video footage coming from the Miami Mall that does show a tall shadow-like being walking through police cars. Now, some people are saying that this big, large shadow captured in Miami is just an optical illusion. This is a shadow that's casted to make it appear much larger. But this shadow here, this shadow entity that's walking between the police cars, does look very similar to what is captured here in Brazil. Matter of fact, this shadow-like entity captured here in Brazil on this hill looks awfully similar to the giant that Andrew Dawson had captured on film. Everyone said Andrew Dawson is a fake, he's a hoax, especially when the Y-Files created their video debunking Andrew Dawson. But like I said, and as I continue to state, I created a video debunking Y-Files debunking. Andrew Dawson was the very first one to capture these shadow giant-like entities on film, and unfortunately he paid with his life. For people to continue to state that Andrew Dawson is a hoax, I'm asking you to please go ahead and watch my video before you decide whether he's a hoax or not. Now, the Brazilian government is going a different route to brush this incident off. They are trying to play this off like it's a hoax, or not what people think it is. But the people in Brazil, the people from this island, from this village, are saying, no, this is not a hoax. We don't play around like that. We captured this on film. These were shadow giant-like beings. We have never seen anything like this before. The article continues to state that this could be the eye of the beholder. But they'll say this, these sightings are becoming more frequent. And at some point, someone might get something on camera that's impossible to deny. As much ado about anything. But until then, here are more breadcrumbs for the unknown. Now, we have to be very careful when we see stories like this. I don't think the people in Brazil are lying here. I don't think there's a hoax here. But this could still be another part of what is Project Bluebeam. The people in Brazil might be getting caught up in Project Bluebeam. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but I did a video on the Economist magazine cover, and I stated that magazine is showing us the beginnings of Project Bluebeam. The magazine cover that yearly predicts events every year, well, on this magazine cover for 2024, it shows as above, so below. You have the hourglass on the very top that signals that time is up, and it is a reflection to the 2 continents at the bottom, and one of the continents is South America. You can watch that video on my other channel, Minutes of Mystery, but I lay it all out how that magazine cover is showing us the beginnings of Project Bluebeam. Now, come to find out, we are now seeing an explosion just 1 week into 2024 of 10-foot tall alien beings. Now they're being captured on camera. Now, I do want to clear something up here because I do believe there's a misconception here when it comes to Project Bluebeam. Now, just because I believe Project Bluebeam is very real, just because I believe there's a card that's going to be played in the near future that involves aliens and UFOs, does not mean that aliens or entities or creatures do not exist. I fully believe that there are entities and creatures that reside among us for thousands of years, perhaps even before humans. Fallen angels, demons, whatever you believe they are, whether they come from the waters, whether they come from another dimension altogether, they are very real. Project Bluebeam, Serge Manas never once stated that aliens or entities or creatures are not real. Of course there are real beings. Project Bluebeam is all about the powers that be using their fake man-made aliens, creatures, and beings to cause chaos among the public, to bring us into that one world government, that one world currency, that one world religion, to bring us into a total totalitarian state. Now, like I said, this is only if this is Project Bluebeam. If these are real entities, I do not believe these are aliens. These look like shadow people. One of the shadow entities caught on camera is even wearing a hat. And anybody familiar with shadow people know that one of the shadow entities wear a hat known as the Hat Man. Shadow people have been here for centuries, for hundreds of years. Documented cases in the United States, even going back to the Native Americans. So if these are indeed shadow people, we can't call them aliens, because they've always been here. Now, shadow people only appear to people when they are falling asleep, or they're caught in a sleep paralysis moment. So that makes one believe that these entities come from a different dimension. But now there are sightings of them becoming more and more frequent in the waking world, and one has to ask themselves, how are they now coming over here? How are they now crossing over here? Are the powers that be creating portals through things like CERN, allowing these entities to easily cross over? Because these do not look like beings that come from outer space. These do not look like beings that come from a spaceship. These look like I said, they look like shadow people that people have reported on seeing upon falling asleep. Now, I could be wrong. These could just be another entity altogether. These might not even be shadow people. But that's the first thing I think of when I see this video. Now, the Brazilian government are saying that this is a hoax, and we can't take the Brazilian government for face value, because this is not the first time the people of Brazil have reported seeing an alien in a mass sighting. 1996, Varginha, Brazil, hundreds of people reported seeing a shiny metallic UFO crash from the sky. They also reported seeing the actual alien, and everybody that saw this alien, hundreds of people, gave the same account. They gave the same physical descriptions and also the same smell. They said this creature had a smell like rotten eggs and sulfur. It had brown oily skin, red eyes, and 3 horns on its head. Hundreds of people reported the same thing. Matter of fact, what I'll go ahead and do at the end of this video, I'll go ahead and play my previous video that I created on the Varginha, Brazil incident. It's a very fascinating video, and it goes to show how far the government will go to cover up something like this. They were even threatening people with weapons, even evacuating hospitals. They were making the sick leave the hospitals and go somewhere else because they wanted to take this creature into the hospital. Before I go ahead and play that video, I do want to ask you, what do you believe these giant shadow-like creatures are? Is this just a hoax? Is this Project Bluebeam? Are these real aliens? Are these real entities? Or are they shadow people? I want to know what you think. Please do comment below. Now, like I said, I am going to go ahead and play my Varginha, Brazil alien video right now. If you are not a believer in UFOs or aliens, you may change your mind after listening to this very bizarre case. When sightings of extraterrestrials are reported, they are generally isolated to 1 or 2 people. But what if an entire country reported the exact same thing? You are now within minutes of horror, because we are now going to be discussing what is now known to be Brazil's Roswell. This very strange event took place in Varginha, Brazil in 1996. On January 20th of that year, 3 young women, Liliane and Valaquira Fatima Silva, and their friend Katia Xavier, decided to take a shortcut home through a vacant parking lot where they allegedly encountered a strange creature. Not missing a beat, all three girls gave the exact same description of the creature that they saw. They reported it to having large red eyes, oily brown skin, V-shaped feet, and 3 round bulges on the top of its head. With the entity looking dazed and confused, the girls tried to move in closer to it. All of a sudden, it turned around and had its focus directly on the girls. Terrified, all 3 girls ran home and informed their mother of what they saw. Their mother, not believing them, goes to the site with the girls. The creature is not there, but the mother does confirm there was a very strong ammonia smell in the area that was so strong they had to evacuate immediately. 2 or 3 days later, after this incident, a few people surrounding a creature they'd never seen before was lying dead on the side of the road. It matched the same description all 3 girls gave, including the bulges on the top of its head. One of the locals, so disturbed by what he is seeing, runs back to his home nearby, calls the police to investigate, but instead of police, 3 large military trucks arrive. These trucks are full of people, what appears to be military to even doctors. Military personnel get out of the vehicles with guns and make the people leave the area by force. They are not given any warnings. They say, if you're still here, we will fire upon you. As the locals are leaving, from a distance they can still see men in hazmat suits get out of the vehicle, scoop up the creature, and put it back into the truck. They immediately take off. Not too much longer after this, gossip started that there was a larger than usual presence of military at a Brazilian military base that was generally unoccupied. Here's where things become even more bizarre. All 3 trucks headed to a local hospital where, by force again, with guns, they made everyone evacuate the hospital. Whether you were sick or staff, you had to leave. Even if you were on your deathbed, you had to go to another hospital. As the people were leaving, they heard all this strange commotion and bizarre code words they'd never heard before. They watch as doctors who never worked in this hospital before rush in. So as you can see, it wasn't too much longer that opinions were quickly formed that in Varginha that several aliens were taken into custody by the Brazilian military. In the following year, more eyewitnesses approached the media with reports of cigar-shaped spacecraft and additional creatures being found in areas such as the local Varginha Zoo by a janitor whose description of the creature still continued to match the description that many others in Varginha were giving. Not only was the physical description still the same, but everyone also reported a very intense odor. More than a quarter century later, interest in this case has been renewed after the release of a documentary, Moment of Contact, which sees filmmaker James Fox return to the small town of Varginha to interview eyewitnesses, experts, and officials. The documentary even interviews retired Brazilian Air Force General Jose Carlos, who states governments tend to cover up everything they can't explain to their population. The documentary also states that in 1996, of the same year the creatures were spotted by locals in Varginha, there were reports of a strange cigar-shaped object about the size of a school bus slowly falling from the sky and crashing into a field. Interviewed was Carlos de Souza, who witnessed the alleged crash and spoke to researcher Clauder Covo on camera in 1996. In his own words, he said it was floating and slowly losing altitude at the time. It looked like a cigar that was fighting to keep its altitude. The side of it was completely torn, and it had white smoke coming out of it. It wasn't black smoke like a fire. At the time, I thought it was an aircraft in trouble, so I decided to follow it. 26 years later, in the documentary, De Souza is interviewed again by the filmmakers. They decide to return to the crash location just up a hill from a small white farmhouse, where he broke down in tears. He said, when I arrived at this very spot, I observed a lot of debris, pieces, he said. And when I got out of the car, I immediately smelled ammonia, like rotten eggs. A very strong smell, so strong that I had to cover my nose with my shirt, and even my eyes got watery. De Souza said right away he realized something was very different from what he was expecting, because first, due to the smell made no sense whatsoever. He also said what he saw to be a sheet of aluminum, so he took a small piece, crumbled it in his hand, and when he released it, it went right back into its original shape. Not too much longer, within minutes, however, Mr. D'Souza said military trucks arrived from a nearby army base from Virginia and ordered him to leave, threatening him with their guns. Any Virginia local that was interviewed in this documentary were absolutely stunned at the large military presence that descended on the town, cordoning off several blocks and preventing anyone from entering or leaving. Liliane Silva, Valkyria Silva, and Katia Xavier, the girls who told their mother about the creature, now adults, returned to the location in the documentary to recount their experience, still visibly disturbed, giving the exact account as to what happened, describing the creature as they did before, with the intense, powerful ammonia smell. The Brazilian military said the girls saw something, but in 2010, an official inquiry had concluded that the girls had actually encountered a homeless and mentally unstable man nicknamed Maninho, covered in mud. Here comes the even stranger part of the documentary. Remember when I spoke about people having to leave the hospital? Well, interviewed was one of the men wearing a hazmat suit who picked up the strange creature, stating he was smelly. He had a strange feeling of something greasy or sticky that covered its entire body. He stated that the creature was rushed to the local hospital, and later it developed an infection that wouldn't go away, and for 2 or 3 weeks it was getting worse and worse and worse, and that the infection eventually killed him. The centerpiece of the film is an interview with an anonymous whistleblower dubbed Military X, who claims to have been involved in transporting the body of a creature from the Humanitas Hospital in Virginia to an army base. He said he saw a stainless steel table, and on top of this table was a box. There were doctors and people carrying clipboards analyzing. It looked like they all seemed scared of it, and when I looked, I saw something different. A different creature with skin very oily, a lot of oil-like silicone. Seeing that, I got scared, he said. Military X also told the interviewer that one of the soldiers present had a film camera and that there was for sure video in possession by the government. He said what caught my attention was the foot. It was like this V shape, practically 2 fingers. What led me to believe that it wasn't human was the foot. The filmmakers also spoke with a former Brazilian air traffic controller who claimed the U.S. Air Force landed unannounced in Campinas and dispatched 2 helicopters to Virginia, where they collected something and took it away. What was collected is not known, but something was rescued, he said. The documentary ends with a message stating filmmakers continue to pursue video and photographic evidence which our investigations conclude exist in Brazil. According to local military and civilian witnesses, the bodies and crash debris were appropriated by agents from the United States of America. This all comes at a time of renewed attention on the subject of UFOs by the US government. This is one of the more convincing UFO cases that I've ever heard because of all the different testimonies, but everyone's saying they've all saw the same thing. Not just describing what it looked like, but everyone interviewed was describing this very powerful ammonia smell. There is not one doubt in my mind that something odd was going on in Varginha, Brazil in 1996. I always believed UFOs and aliens to be one of 2 things. They're either demons or beings that come from another plane of existence, maybe from another dimension, a 4th dimension, a 5th dimension, but whatever they are, they do have complete mastery over our laws and physics. Just like we have complete mastery over anything that is 2-dimensional, take a piece of paper, you can bend it to your whim in any way you see fit. Whatever these beings are, we definitely are not alone. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this content and you want to see more, please subscribe and hit that notification button before this channel is abducted.